Hi people, it's Cyberse here, and today I've got yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video. I've got a couple of online games to show you here with my Cyberse Code Talker deck. I finally managed to go from gold to platinum. One of these games, the one I'm going up against the Blue Eyes player, was my final game of gold. And then my next one, I'm not actually that familiar with the deck. It's a Pendulum deck, but I'm not all too familiar with it. But I managed to defeat it when I got into platinum. But I will admit, and I guess you will probably think this too, that I only won because of Drowning Mirror Force. Like, I was lucky to draw into that the first turn. Drowning Mirror Force and regular Mirror Force, to be honest, are awesome cards. They can truly change the game. Like, you can get so caught up in summoning as many monsters to the field as possible. But as the great Yami Yugi said when he faced Weevil, you were so busy putting monsters on the field that you failed to notice my trap card. And that is so real when you go online, because people will absolutely just throw as many monsters onto the field as possible. And the great thing about Drowning Mirror Force, I find, over regular Mirror Force, is that although it's becoming, I find, quite common to have monsters that are immune to being destroyed by card effects, or monsters that are immune to being targeted by card effects, but I can't say I know many scenarios, if any, where a card is fully immune to any card effects, like non-targeting card effects. So I guess there are means of negating it, like if you're using, just in my deck, there's like Signet Optimization, where when you go to attack, your opponent can't activate anything. So there is that means of dealing with it, but it's a very flexible card, and I used it to just return all of the cards to my opponent's hand or extra deck or graveyard, wherever they came from, basically, and I'm sure really pissed him off. And it was a little bit of a cheap win, but at the same time, he did activate a trap card, which stopped me from going into my potentially one turn kill move, so I didn't feel too bad about it because he got a lucky move too. And both of these games were what I would call reactionary Cyberse games, because of the games I have, there's ones where I throw all my resources into it and then my opponent manages to destroy my access code talker, which is my boss monster essentially, and then it leaves me with very few options to do anything else. Or it's a case that I'm able to get to access code talker. I've got out my firewall dragon, maybe, usually encode talker, so I've got some protection. I destroy monsters just using access code talker's effect, and I've got so much attack power that I can wipe them out in a single turn. And like, that sounds fun, but in reality I actually don't mind it in retrospect, when my opponent is able to interrupt my combo just a little bit, so I have to go into the next turn and then build up again. And I'm finding that Decode Talker in particular is proving to be a great card to bring out if I didn't quite finish them off the first turn, because you can get his attack power quite easily up to 3,300, and you can also detach monsters in the link arrows in order to negate effects, which is always convenient. So I've had fun with the two games I'm showing you, because it wasn't an instant win from either player. There was a little bit of back and forth, but without question they were indeed short games. I am considering doing a guide on this deck, going through a deck list, explaining how to use it, much like my Red Eyes video. I'm not sure if it's worth it yet, just because I'm not sensing from my first video that there's as much interest in the Cyberse deck I've got as my Red Eyes Black Dragon deck. But please, if you do want to see a video like that where I explain the deck that you're seeing right now, go through it. I'm happy to go down to the detail of how to link summon, quite frankly, because I was so recently in that position where I didn't know how to link summon at all. So I feel like I might be able to explain it in a way that really talks to beginners. So if anyone has any interest in that, please let me know, because I would like to do it, but again, didn't get the sense that my previous content was as successful or popular as my Red Eyes content. I mean, Red Eyes is not only an awesome deck to play, but it's also a very famous one. It's one of the original trios, so I guess I'm not surprised that there's a lot of eyes on that. And also the thing is, I'm conscious that I am not alone in being a returning player to Master Duel. I'm really hearing from a lot of people who used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. Maybe it was the original Duel Monsters series, GX, 5Ds, I guess Zexal is even quite old now, that's crazy. But for me, I watched definitely Duel Monsters, a little bit of GX, but that's when my original run, shall we say, of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was starting to run out. So I really loved that era, and it's really nice to kind of hear from people like me who are a bit older, who are, you know, like, oh, I remember playing that when I was younger, and Master Duel is giving me this ability to play the game, to see these great animations, and to appreciate those older cards. But at the same time, as I found with my Red Eyes deck, inevitably there is a certain frustration where you want to play with these classic decks with these themes you remember because, you know, in the show or just when you were playing when you were younger, they were truly powerful. But this is an evolving game, a game that has transformed over, you know, 20 years, and as a result, old formats, old strategies aren't going to be as effective as they once were, as much as we may want. And the thing is, I believe the reason that a deck like Blue Eyes White Dragon, which has a lot of variation you can put in it, but you often see similar things like, well, of course, 3 of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, Maiden with Eyes of Blue, Sage of Eyes of Blue, Melody of Awakening Dragon, right, these staples. The great thing about that deck is that there are combos in it, but they're not overly long. It's a monster that is iconic from the original series, and although it's definitely not like an S tier competitive deck, I would say it is a competitive strategy. It is a competitive technique. And I think the reason it's just so popular is because it's that rare overlap of being a fun, simple, nostalgic deck, but also actually being competitive and viable online. And I just wish there was more like that. I wish Red Eyes Black Dragon was a little bit more competitive against the stronger decks. Like, it really has a hard time dealing with monsters with really high attack points. If I didn't have Dark Arm, the Dragon of Annihilation in my extra deck, I really don't know how I would deal with certain high-powered monsters. When you start going over 4,000, it gets really tricky. And I also have Dark Rebellion X Siege Dragon for that. That's quite exciting because people don't expect me to bring that out and then steal half their attack points, but I go off on one. Dark Magician, though, I have gone up against one particular Dark Magician player who did manage to just go into a crazy combo, and I don't think it was like a first turn kill, but he definitely got me from 8,000 life points to 0 in a single turn. So I guess I haven't really seen enough of Dark Magician or don't understand it well enough right now to say if it is considered competitive, but it seems to be okay. I guess Dragoon would be nice to have in the Red Eyes deck. That's something that I heard a lot of people talk about, but at the same time, while it would bolster the Red Eyes archetype, it would probably benefit a lot of other decks as well. It would just go in because it's such a strong card that other decks would incorporate it just because it really is that good. Also, another card which I'm not sure why this one isn't here, maybe it's too new, I'm genuinely not sure, is Red Eyes Alternative Black Dragon, which gives you the ability to, I think you have to sacrifice a Red Eyes card, send it to the graveyard to summon it. But then when the Red Eyes Alternative dies, you can resurrect a monster, and if it's a Red Eyes Black Dragon, it comes back with like 4,800 attack points. So it gives you that ability to come out with really high attack points, but that isn't in here right now. So it feels like a part of the strategy is missing with Red Eyes. So that's why I'm continuing to go down this Cyberse route. I'm enjoying the novelty of it. I like the mechanics. I think I want to try and find a way to use the deck. It's going to sound crazy, but where I can actually summon less in a single turn while still setting up a solid defense, so that I'm not just throwing everything into like this single gambit, because first of all, it's not as fun just to spend that long on a single turn. And secondly, if your opponent does manage to screw it up, like maybe they just Raigeki you, for example, there's nothing worse than that. That did happen to me once in a solo match when I was experimenting with it, where I just went through this crazy summoning period on the first turn, got everything out that I wanted, had more than enough attack power to wipe them out like ×2, and then Raigeki, it's all gone. I was like, oh my god. All of those resources, all of my deck into that, I've got nothing left. Like, what could I even summon after this? So I'm trying to restrain myself a little bit with this Cyberse deck. And you want to have a strong opening, but you don't want to commit too much resources. It's almost like you have to hold yourself back from summoning as much as possible, which is a hard thing to do. It's like, you can't go too weak because then they might be able to one turn kill you. But you don't want to go too strong because then you waste too many resources if they manage to wipe your field out. It's a little bit of a guessing game, especially if you don't know the deck you're going up against. So these have been some slightly miscellaneous thoughts, I will admit, today. I'm not sure what I'll call this video because the topics have been all over the place. I just wanted to talk generally about Master Duel. There might be some more of these. I'll need to do these sometimes where I don't have time to construct a more cohesive video. I just want to talk and sort of stay consistent with you guys. If you're enjoying these, do let me know. I plan to make more, maybe some more card reviews like I did for Red Eye Slash Dragon. Check that out if you haven't seen it already. As always, people, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.